should we trust governments on national security? I think it's a completely false binary. Let me caveat that by saying that I speak for myself and I do not speak for the party that I speak for 24/7. And the reason why I say that is because when I read the subject of today's panel, essentially data localization and de-anonymization, and I went through the report of the Sri Krishna Commission. We had a whole commission which went into the issue of data protection. And of course, they also came out with a draft law. The one thing which struck me very clearly was that there is a huge dichotomy. Governments still continue to live in 1648 while we are in 2018. And I think why 1648 is important is because that's when the Peace of Westphalia came about. And the Peace of Westphalia really gave the conception of sovereignty. And what really was that conception of sovereignty? That there would be no uncontested spaces in Europe, essentially to ensure that conflict could be mitigated, if not completely eliminated. And to the credit of the Peace of Westphalia, it held till the Congress of Vienna, and the Congress of Vienna renewed in 1815, and it held till the First World War, and then after the Second War, you had a new reality. But the conception of Westphalian sovereignty has remained frozen in time. And therefore, states find it extremely difficult to deal with a post-Westphalian reality, which is the internet and the social media. And since states are completely and absolutely allergic by reflex, instinct, and intuition to let go of control, when they are confronted with the reality that there is a huge ungoverned space called the internet, which is completely and absolutely out of their domain, they are flummoxed. And so the natural instinct is, we must try and bring it under control. And the reason why they're able to succeed to some extent is because what you see is the flora and fauna of the net. But the underlying hardware, the routers and the cables and the gateways, the physical infrastructure of the net, still continues to be under regulatory oversight or intrusion of states per se. And so therefore, if you are China, and with great respect to any Chinese delegates in the room, you are able to convert the internet into an intranet by effectively firewalling it. But that does not prevent a million mutinies on the net on a daily basis. So this whole mindset of data localization is a completely Westphalian mindset which is not able to comprehend that you're living in a new reality. And so therefore, when you have people who have been institutionalized in those mindsets, trying to write reports, and with all great respect to Justice Sri Krishna, who's was being a great judge of the Supreme Court, I don't think you are really able to comprehend what you're dealing with. And so to me, I think data localization is a complete non sequitur. What you really require are protocols whereby you can have an effective sharing of information in case there is a critical challenge to national security or law enforcement. And even the barriers of accessing that criticality need to be very clearly laid down, and the bar needs to be set very high, because states instinctively have a desire, if I can use the word, to abuse that discretion which is available with them. So I, for one, speaking for myself, I don't think this data localization is a very great idea, that you need to have a copy on a server which is located nationally, and there need to be filters, and there need to be kind of protocols on the kind of data which can possibly flow out. I think it's just the inability of people to be able to get out of that Westphalian mindset. On de-anonymization, as someone who's at the receiving end of bots and trolls and all kinds of nefarious characters in the social media space, often not real, but machine automated, I still very strongly support anonymization. And the reason why I support anonymization is because anonymity is perhaps the only way available to freedom-loving people around the world to fight tyrannical and despotic regimes. And so therefore, when you are confronted with a situation whereby you are struggling for those basic rights or those natural rights which should not be denied to any human being, and the response of the state to that fight is to try and physically liquidate you, or at least throw you in the can as far as for as long as possible, anonymization is an extremely efficient way of fighting a tyrannical and despotic state. And that's why I say that this entire binary of national security vis-a-vis privacy is completely a false binary. And that's why the Supreme Court of India demolished it very effectively when, in a unanimous judgment of 9 judges sitting together, which is usually unprecedented in our Supreme Court, I'm a lawyer by profession, said that right to privacy is a fundamental right. And in fact, the judgment went further to say that the right to privacy includes the right to be forgotten. So therefore, when you have the judiciary weighing down so heavily in favor of the individual or the citizen, the reason they are doing that is because they're extremely cognizant of the very mischievous ability of the state, which gets reflected in these attempts or in these very subtle drafts called data localization and de-anonymization, etc. You've already must have heard a lot about Aadhaar. It must have been coming out of your ears by now. I, for one, have always been a critic of Aadhaar. Even when I was in Parliament and even after that. And I fundamentally believe that the state has no business to have control over the proprietary data of millions and millions of citizens. And I think with all the right intentions when we began in 2007, and it began during the time of our government, I don't think the intent was wrong. But what was offered was the panacea of a magic number, which would unlock the gates to heaven. Suddenly you would have every goods and service, all goods and services available at your fingertips. And I think somewhere what got lost was the whole doctrine of informed consent. That what really are you giving up for this Shangri-La, for this promised land? And if given a chance to redo this whole paradigm, I think at some point in time the Indian state, and it's going to be a very difficult consensus to build, because Aadhaar has definitely empowered people who were faceless or nameless, and as people who've been in Parliament, fought elections, represented people, you've seen the empowerment on the ground. But the idea of the state being in control of so much of proprietary data makes me very uncomfortable. I would have been happier if the individual was in control and could have used it at his discretion to access whatever He wanted, and I will close by saying, you see, for all those who are advocates of free speech, who are advocates of a free internet, I think the greatest danger to free speech and to a free internet is from them. And the reason I say that is because till the time you do not have agreed rules of engagement emerge in the virtual civilization, till the time stakeholders, rather than stymieing those talks, actually do not arrive at a modus vivendi, sooner or later you will have states stepping in. And when states do step in, they do it with a very heavy hand. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.